and we're going to jump into a game that is already in progress.
Yeah, so Lee Sin and Zoe was banned, as well as Victor and Zoe. Those are the two bans. So what is left for MartinKartin is Trundle, Lissandra, the Ionia portion of it, and he's running a Monastery of Harana. The mad lad is running a Monastery of Harana, and I am so proud of him. We also have Ezreal and Gangplank is his other deck, so a little bit of burn, and then Gvuardya is stuck again with the Diana Aphelios deck that we saw a bit, and then Leona and Aurelion Sol. So we already saw those two decks. So now MartinKartin's first up here, and we can dive right in. This is going to be exciting.
So the Monastery of Harana build for the Lissandra deck has been kind of pushed to the side by, of course, the Shadow Isles variant, because this one's considered to be very memey. However, the combo variant of Matron, the Spectral Matron Lissandra build, has become more prominent. Before, there was that tug of war between the Ledros Atrocity variant, the combo Spectral Matron Watcher variant, and now that combo variant has become more popular. I think that players now are beginning to revisit a deck that has an even stronger combo potential with the Monastery of Harana. Because the idea behind this deck is you use the Sanctuary to bounce the Ice Pillar back to your hand multiple times so that you can actually meet the requirement for the Watcher being 0 mana even faster than the Spectral Matron variant.
Yeah, exactly. And then you can ideally just get out the Watcher super quick. You have Ionia tools. So you don't have the Shadow Isles classic tools of healing like board wide with the Withering Wail and things, but you can still rock the Avalanches, the Bladed Ravines that Freljord offers. And you have a bunch of interesting tools for Ionia to bring, like Deny and things along those lines, to really just offer a plethora of other tools that this deck normally doesn't have.
And, I mean, we even got a glimpse of it earlier in the bracket, where the Shadow Isles variant, despite their board clear and despite their healing, sometimes isn't enough against the more aggressive decks that you're capable of. So basically, I think what MartinKartin's idea is you bring this deck with just a late game combo potential to beat some of these value Targon lists, and then your other two decks have just better matchups across the board and with a little bit of burn, as you talked about. So I was expecting Gvuardya to maybe even ban this one in order to avoid the potential to just get a Watcher blowing up your Targon list.
Right, yeah, exactly. And it's super interesting. Like this list, I'm looking at it now, has got some really spicy tech. So it's an interesting list already at the beginning. It's obviously, like you said, fallen a little bit short of the Shadow Isles in terms of popularity, but he's running 2 Homecomings and 3 Go Get It's as well. So Go Get It's another way to really mass summon 8-drops, right? You use Go Get It on a pillar or something along those lines, and you're getting a lot of procs to be able to get the Watcher out early. He's even running 3 Entreats to just for sure find that Lissandra that he needs and then get the Watcher out and end the game with that. I mean, this is pure combo, just waiting to get the Watcher out and going from there. It's super fun.
And usually when we think about combos in Runeterra, combo decks, we think about like Lee Sin or Karma Ezreal, where they're very slow. They're using a lot of control tools to get to the late game and then beat you. And this one seems to be flying more by the seat of its pants, and then that combo hits closer towards the mid game and is very explosive. But with that all aside, there is no Monastery of Harana yet, and Gvuardya is hitting this daybreak curve like a truck.
Man, I love, we always used to call it the SSLP, right, man? You got the Soldier, the Shield Bearer, you get the Priestess, Leona, you add the R, you get Raven, and it's devastating. It can be so
the
powerful.
Slurp.
The Slurp.
Yo, Gvuardya is slurping this sunlight right now, slurping that Sunny D, and just needs the attack token. Here's the Homecoming, says, never mind, we're going to stash that one away. This is actually really strong. The Trundle's going to go back to hand, so you can play it and get another pillar that's already going to be 2 procs for your Lissandra once you get it. Triple Leona in hand for Gvuardya. This is actually pretty clunky now.
Yeah, it can start to get pretty clunky. So he's going to be going on what? It looks like turn 7 with 3 mana, so he'll have 10. So he could afford Leona into her champion spell, Morning Light, which will end in 3 stuns with Raven out there.
And enough mana to return Trundle to the hand and replay him the same turn means that you still have a blocker, right? This still isn't a great open attack. Gvuardya needs to redevelop with the Leona. And I thought that, you know, this deck wouldn't have as much defense, but against this Daybreak list that just needs to play out units one at a time, it gives an opportunity for MartinKartin to be like, okay, Concussive Palm, Homecoming, Frostbite. There's going to be a lot of tools on that side to stifle any offensive pressure this deck can push through, just even with the stuns.
Yeah, so we'll see if he goes for the Morning Light here. A deny would obviously be needed, but without a deny here, it would be a pretty massive amount of damage coming through. Of course, you know, we could see some freezings. Now, it is important to note MartinKartin's not running Harsh Winds, so we won't be seeing a 6-mana double freeze to stop a lot of the damage.
No Harsh Winds in this deck,
Yeah, we do have 2 Flash Freeze, so there is some freezing ability, but he's running a lot more of the early removal, like 3 Ice Shards, 3 Avalanches, and even 3 Blighted Ravines.
So here it is. Shield Bearer going to come down instead, not committing to the Morning Light, just going to get another stun. This is great. Again, it's always day, thanks to Ravun's ability, so you are able to repeatedly proc this stun for as many Daybreaks as you have available. And -2 blockers here is presenting lethal? No, 18, I think. I'm bad at math. Anyway, yeah, it's 18. So actually one off lethal 18. Here. Is MartinKartin going to take the hit? Gvuardya is running this is a Demacia, remind you. This is a Demacia variant, so you have to worry about, like, Sharp Sight being just the last little bit of damage.
Yeah. He puts out Lissandra. You know, he can block something. He can either decide to block a 5-attack unit to soak as much damage as possible, or just block the Shield Bearer and be able to stay alive with Lissandra. Since she does have tough, he just takes it all.
Ooh, calls out no Sharp Sight. No block. So now we have Lissandra in play. There is 2 pillars in hand. So now, perfectly timed at 8 mana, you can play 1 pillar. It refills that 8 mana. You can play the second pillar. Lissandra levels up. Now it comes down to, do I have the tools, maybe a go get it in hand, perhaps, to bounce this pillar again, create a 0 mana copy in play, summon another one in hand that costs 0 mana, and I think, is that the combo to get a 0 mana Watcher here? It's gonna get stunned though.
It's just gonna get stunned. I was about to say that, right? I mean, he can do all of that. I believe he can get the Watcher out here with overwriting his own board units, but Leona is a decent counter for something along those lines, especially when you have Raven on board, where you can even, right now, go for a kill onto Lissandra and still have Daylight to be able to try to stun the strongest unit later in the game.
Solari Priestess picking up the Meteor Shower. Again, Invoke, this is one of the things. Invoke gets a bad rap because, you know, the star shaping into the Phoenix, like we saw the Phoenix, it's the win conditions of late game Celestials. But in the mid game, where you have the decisions around, do I take Golden Sister, Falling Comet, Written in Stars, where these are like bigger utilitarian commitments that are meant for a specific matchup or for a specific board state, you really see the reward of Invoke. So there's the deny. This is going to drop MartinKartin down to 7 mana, so no other pillars this turn.
So he's deciding just to attack here with Trundle. Trundle should get a pretty large buff here.
Yeah, thanks to the pillars, and by getting Ravun off of the board, you don't have to worry about multiple stuns coming through off of Leona anymore, potentially. And if there is, again, a Sharp Sight where this trades up into the Trundle, you're totally fine with that, just because you need to get this unit off of the board.
Attacking here with the 3-1 is interesting as well.
There is the threat of the 5-4 or the Leona just value trading into it. MartinKartin maybe just setting up some sort of commitment here. Probably has Go Get It or maybe Homecoming. You can send the Iceveil Archer back to your hand and recycle that Frostbite. The lack of Monastery is actually quite huge, because the ability to continuously recycle these Frostbites keeps your opponent from properly pressuring you while you develop your combo.
Yeah. Yeah, and him having to deny that to keep Lissandra alive was massive. Just putting him down at 7 mana so he can't afford the next Ice Pillar to just escalate that entire turn was pretty dang massive.
So the Eclipse Dragon is in hand in order to proc the Dragon Guard Lieutenant here. So another Challenger unit combined with the rest of this. Look at that. Oh, that's why they attacked with the Iceveil Archer, to deal a little bit of chip damage to something, try to clean up with the Blighted Ravine. Gvuardya going to save the Solari Sunforger here, potentially with the Guiding Light.
Yeah, and of course Trundle here will regenerate before the Blighted Ravine takes its toll next turn. In net, healing his own Nexus by at least 2 for now, so he's up to 3 after this goes off, and also clearing 3 attackers on Gvuardya's board, which is pretty big.
And now that Lissandra's in play, and we are getting into the later stages of mana, the Watcher can come down. Gvuardya needs to develop this board, needs to try to get the attacking advantage once again. This is going to open up a window for MartinKartin to play that pillar and then get a Watcher in hand. And depending on what the rest of these cards in hand are, the combo could be set up for next round. If you set up the Watcher this turn, you open attack with it so that you don't have to worry about the Leona stun.
Yeah, it's a very important point there. He's going to have to open attack with the Watcher at some point because Leona will just be able to stun that. Unless he can get Leona off the board in a different fashion, multiple avalanches or something along those lines, he's going to need to just plan to be able to open attack because he always has the Leona stun in his back pocket for the Watcher. I suppose if Trundle got larger than the Watcher in attack.
That actually is a real possibility. Yeah. Trundle be holding would tank a stun potentially. And the overwhelm damage coming through is still very important. We know that Gvuardya's list here, the Targon Demacia, is just running 1 copy of Hush. So stopping the overwhelm is going to be a pretty tall order, I think.
Yeah, and finding a win condition here is going to be pretty tough as well now. He does have him at 3 mana, which is great, but dragons don't have overwhelm naturally. So he's going to need to, establish more board pressure than he has currently, or try to get through some damage with something that's elusive or something along those lines that he can invoke later or with overwhelm. But dragons themselves are just daybreak. Unless he's stunning the entire board, he's not going to be able to sneak that damage through.
Mm-hmm. At the very least, Gvuardya does have a lot of freedom this round to develop. Try to put some pressure on, because when the Watcher swings through, we do know that there is Morning Light in hand. Those are Leona's Morning Lights. So he can cast one just to shuffle Leona back into the deck and buy himself another round or maybe 2. Yeah. But beyond that, as you already talked about, with no overwhelm damage, it may be harder to strike through here than you would imagine. Especially, again, with Homecoming, all the defensive tools from Ionia, or maybe even just a clutch Frostbite. And if you're stuck on having to cast Morning Light as your only option turn after turn, maybe even without Ravun to give you a double stun, right? It's you're going to actually fall behind from this position to Trundle's Overwhelm. Who'da thunk it?
Yeah, and I mean, even if not, you're still going to have a chump blocker. Like even the Watcher still has 11 attack even without its ability, so you'll still need enough bodies on board to be able to block that on top of also surviving through Trundle's Overwhelm.
And Lissandra, her mission has been fulfilled. The Watcher's in hand. We no longer need you. Last minute Ice Shard here. Oh, actually does clear the Sunforger. Just a safety block.
Yeah. I suppose keeping your Nexus as tough is, not a terrible thing. It definitely can help. This deck doesn't really ping the Nexus down, but it still can help just have you essentially get 1 extra health.
A lot of, the power of Lissandra is concentrated around the Watcher win condition, but that slow burn, the 1 damage going onto your opponent's board and their Nexus, while your tough Nexus doesn't take that damage, is very understated. I've seen a couple games come down to a slow stalemate grind like this, And Lissandra is designed entirely around winning in situations of that nature.
What can't Lissandra do?
She can't block fearsome. But here it comes. Avros and Sentry as just, again, another blocker, looking for more card draw, looking for resources. MartinKartin, despite this deck on the surface appearing to be a bit of a meme, he's piloting it in a way that makes it seem incredibly dangerous. And I think that making it through the Swiss rounds and all the way to the grand finals is a testament to, you know, this deck being perhaps a bit more consistent than you give it credit for.
Besides that, even the consistency, this is not an easily piloted deck. This is a lot of thinking in each match, playing this hard of a control / combo deck like this. So playing that through 6 Swiss rounds and then all today as well is extremely impressive. It is a deck that requires a lot of skill.
The endurance, like the mental fortitude of the players here, definitely can't be understated. After playing through so many games, and not just like the strategy of the game itself, but the ban phases, having to analyze your chances against your opponent's lineup, getting to this point it just goes to show, right, that MartinKartin and Gvuardya know what they're doing. Gvuardya, again, is a very seasoned tournament player. MartinKartin, a player that I personally have not heard of yet, but I definitely will be keeping an eye out for this name going forward. Avros and Sentry's now attacking. I wonder if you take the damage, to be honest, just deny the card draw to your opponent.
Yeah, I don't know. He does have the free Ice Shard now from Lissandra, so I suppose the backup plan would just be to nuke his own sentries at that point.
I guess that's fair. You would destroy your own sentries. You're still on a bit of a burn clock here. And at the end of the day, maybe MartinKartin doesn't cast the Ice Shard and keeps the Avros and Sentries alive as blockers. So
yeah, that's true.
Overall, I guess that's definitely a fair attack and a fair block.
He does have the board power here that Asol would level up here if the turn ends. So unless he can remove some of this power on the side of Gvuardya, then he will level up.
And then the Invoke Fiesta begins. A 0-mana destroyer goes a long way towards opening up options for the rest of the board. And that amount of overwhelm damage can't really be stopped unless MartinKartin does get that, needs to have double flash freeze to get through the spell shield.
Guessing we'll just see a recall of some way. Yeah, so a homecoming comes down in order to just, okay, we're just going to get Asol back to your hand. You're going to have to commit 10 more mana next turn if you want to put him back out. But we do see, obviously, Gvuardya does have a single combat that he can use.
Just thinking, do I want to just single combat the Trundle? If you single combat the Trundle, the homecoming loses its target, and then the Aurelion Sol stays in play.
Yeah, and MartinKartin's running 2 denies in this list, no notifies. So 2 denies, will one come down here, or just a flash freeze works the same here. So that will keep the homecoming from going off. Now he cannot play replay Trundle this round, though. After having to use that flash freeze, he's now down to 4 mana, so he cannot just replay Trundle this round.
Blighted Ravine, a little bit of healing, wipes the Leona. And what this allows you to do is, now that the Nexus is tough, you aren't taking that return damage. So the healing is actually a slight net gain here.
True. And removing 2 things off the board. Pretty massive play there. You can see, like you said, this is just kind of coming down to, can these Ice Shards and things along those lines just chip away at this Nexus of Gvuardya's?
This is such a fascinating intersection of 2 archetypes where the consistent recalls and the frostbites just punish this deck in particular so heavily, because look, the daybreaks have been there, the stuns have been there, but Gvuardya just hasn't been able to push through enough damage. And against Ionia, Aurelion Sol is just a massive, just a massive commitment here.
It is, yeah, and, normally he's not that awful for commitment because he comes down with Spell Shield, but Lissandra just generating zero-cost Ice Shards that are just alone pinging everything, setting them up for Avalanches and Blighted Ravines, but they're also pinging off the Spell Shield of Aurelion Sol every time he comes down.
And that is the secret, the ability for this deck to generate a free resource to easily deal with Spell Shield is such a next level analysis of the metagame itself. So many decks kind of, if you don't have your deck specifically built to beat Spell Shield, or you have access to those tools like Piltover Zon or Shadow Isles with their easy pings, you really suffer against Spell Shield. But this one, I'm honestly I'm so impressed. And now Gvuardya thinking, I can attack here, but is it lethal? Right? You can pull Trundle to the side, try to swing in with some lethal damage here, but you're playing against, does my opponent have another way to stop this?
Yep. Yeah, so if this pulls Trundle to the side and he goes in from here, he needs to see a Concussive Palm, a Homecoming, or another Flash Freeze. There's only 2 Homecomings and 2 Flash Freezes in this deck, though.
So I think that he's down to triple Concussive Palm, a Flash Freeze, and there is one Troll Chant as well. Might be able to make something happen.
One important thing here is actually Lissandra's Champion spell is in Tome. And that does cost 5 mana, so we could see that come down as well.
Yeah, I did forget about Lissandra's Entomb. And so look at this. Gvuardya's actually going to clear Lissandra. Not going to try to swing through for lethal this round. Just wants to get rid of the tough Nexus. So this is going to make the Ice Shard more reciprocal. Makes Blighted Ravine also deal damage to that Nexus. So just going for a board wipe here. Again, because Leona's in play, you aren't really afraid of the Watcher itself anymore.
You have another Trundle drop down as well. So he can easily combo out with both of the Ice Pillars. He's got 3 beefy units to choose from. Definitely game-ending units on his side here now, if he can get back to his turn on the attack token and actually try to push these through.
Yeah, you can see there, opting for the Immortal Fire over the Destroyer. The Spell Shield isn't going to be as relevant, and with a big unit like Trundle in play, you can buff the block the Overwhelm very consistently. And this game has gone on way longer than I expected it to. Right? At this point in the game, you're maybe hoping for the Watcher to come down and end things, or simply the massive daybreaks and stuns to somehow give Gvuardya a lethal swing, but nothing has been decided yet.
I do like this play here, playing the Icevale Archer down to 2, just down to 8 mana now from that. So you still have access to your other Ice Pillar, and you still have access to then refresh that mana and have even more units being dropped on the board. He is keeping his Daybreak up, but it looks like he's just pulling and trying to get some damage through. Maybe not. I don't. Would that have been lethal? How much?
I think.
How much is Trundle getting buffed here?
He would go up to 10, I think, because of the pillars here. And who knows if there's other 8 drops in hand. Right. No, there's actually no main deck 8 drops. So all of the boosts for Trundle are just coming from these pillars exclusively, and the Watcher. Well, the Watcher's 0 mana, so you don't get the boost from Trundle. But this is what you want. Again, if you go for the Watcher here, it's 0 mana, but it usually just gets stunned. So
yes. So you might as well just take a nice chunk of the Nexus away.
MartinKartin reconsidering.
Wants to try to kill Leona.
If you kill Leona, this is actually Leona number 2. This is actually incredibly heads up. You kill the second Leona, and that means that the third Leona, is just you don't get that champion spell of the Morning Light to survive after the Watcher has blown up the deck. It forces you to play Aurelion Sol, and then hope for Sky's Descend to shuffle another Aurelion Sol in.
Yeah,
and
that's
both
happening
of
a
those
lot.
are massive mana commitments.
This does not let him try to. He could just try to establish the Immortal Fire, and if there isn't an answer, he has the lethal. If he doesn't have healing or anything along those lines, besides that, is he really out of options here?
I was really surprised not to see the Watcher developed in that position. As you mentioned, even if it does get stunned, it doesn't blow up the deck, it's still a massive unit that you have to deal with in some capacity.
I suppose he could play it now after the attack. He could still drop the Watcher and just use it as an 11-17 defender.
Yeah, when we look
Against
at
something massive.
Gvuardy's list, there's no Fangs, no Spacey Sketcher to get access to Equinox.
Right.
So there's no harm in it getting potentially silenced permanently. But Gvuardya now knows what the stakes are. Because you can go for Leona plus, or Solari Sunforger plus Leona. You can go for Aurelion Sol here. Supernova is a very interesting idea. But against Deny, it's rough.
Immortal Fire. That's true. Deny is rough. He already had the Immortal Fire, so he goes for the Great Beyond, which is enough Nexus damage on top of having Spell Shield. But that Lissandra is absolutely massive because that free Ice Shard now can just ping off the Spell Shield and leave him vulnerable to something like an Entome or even a Flash Freeze or Concussive Palm.
So there's Moonglow being developed by Aurelion Sol here. So what is the play? If you go for Leona, then Trundle gets blocked. You can play the Immortal Fire here, which theoretically would be lethal. It really comes down to what MartinKartin has. Right, I think that Gvuardya was going for that line of the Immortal Fire is too vulnerable to Frostbite or being recalled, and so by using Aurelion Sol, you get the access to Great Beyond instead, which has Spell Shield, but now that is countered in turn by Lissandra.
Yeah, that Lissandra play was huge because of that. Just free access to popping Spell Shields on every unit it's just so massive.
And because these Celestials are so expensive, you have to commit your entire mana to that. I'm wondering if you play Destroyer, and when the Spell Shield gets popped by the Ice Shard, you Moonglow it.
Yeah, that's actually not a terrible idea. He could have done that, and he would have went for the Ice Shard most likely. Then you can't really Ice Shard in combat. He's gonna have to Ice Shard before that in order to pop the Spell Shield. Instead, he just plays it safe. He just plays a soldier.
Yeah, because you could just. It would be like when you do Vile Feast Vengeance, right? You put the removal on the stack, and then you do Ice Shard on top of that, so it resolves first. Gvuardya doesn't have any reactivity like Concerted Strike or Single Combat we saw before. At the very least, Homecoming is gone, but you're worried about Concussive Palm from this position. MartinKartin has navigated this matchup beautifully and is just in a position where, yes, I have a 0-mana Watcher in play, but look at my board. Like, despite everything, even goes for a Blighted Ravine here. Doesn't even want the extra blocker.
Yeah, really just waiting for Gvuardya to make his move, and then when he commits to something that's trying to go for lethal, which now I actually don't even think it is lethal. It might be if you combine it with the damage that the Blade of Ravine will do, but I believe he's only played one other Celestial when he highlighted over the Immortal Fire. So I think the Great Beyond would only be 9 damage going through, which would leave the Nexus at 2 with Tough.
There was that Meteor Shower that was played a long time ago.
Yes.
And so, yeah, only a couple extra points of attack on the Destroyer right now. Oh, wait, it says 1. Oh, wait, is it Celestial Unit or times you've invoked? I think it's Celestial Unit you've played, if it's only 1. Does Meteor Shower not count? Or was that denied?
Ooh, that's a good question.
I think it got denied. It feels like it was that part of the match happened yesterday.
Yeah, this has been a very, very long, drawn out match, typical with Trundle control and things. But yeah, no, I believe you're right. I believe it was denied because it was on to level 1 Lissandra, and he kept her alive, which left him off 8 mana, so he wasn't able to pill her out. So this puts down the Immortal Fire. He commits to it. 1 mana left. Nothing that he can really do outside of that. The only thing that Gvuardya could be threatening in hand is if Asol made a 1-cost whatchamacallit, a 1-cost actual Celestial card, but he clearly didn't. So really, you get what you see here, and now MartinKartin can kind of decide how he wants to play it out.
At this point, Gvuardya, took a lot of time to think about what the highest percentage line of play is in this situation. But at this point, you're at the mercy of what MartinKartin's hand contains. So Ice Shard to pop the Spell Shield into Avalanche. This is going to wipe the Slary Soldier.
Yeah, and he can just accept this 7 damage from the Immortal Fire. It's not that threatening. It puts him down to 4 health on Nexus.
Mm-hmm.
He'll take 2 more from the Blighted Ravine, but it's tough, so he's only going to take 1. Put him on 3 health next turn.
The Lissandras here have been so clutch by mitigating so much damage. The Ice Shards to burn down Gvuardya to put pressure on him to make these larger commitment plays. And here is what we were talking about. The Watcher being developed on defense so you can open attack against stuns. Yeah. Targon's weakness finally being properly exploited. All their plays are slow speed. Here it comes. The deck is no more. But there's not even enough blockers to just stop this lethal. Both of these cards working in tandem, you could Concerted Strike the Watcher, but that's about it. And we don't see it in hand. Gvuardya has Guiding Touch to maybe fish for it. Oh, wait.
It's not even a skill.
Oh, yeah. I thought it goes... I forgot. It doesn't go on the stack. It just happens. So
we see another Sudoku.
So there is no fishing for answers anymore. Sudoku with the Guiding Touch. Do it. It'll be the 3rd one on today's broadcast.
Yes. And he nailed it.
All right. So heading back to the desk. That game was so... just so tight all the way up towards the end. And you can see that in situations like that, when you're attacking your opponent with multiple win conditions, the pressure that you put them under, Gvuardya, even if that was a destroyer over the Immortal Fire, right? Even if there was a different line of play from the Aurelian Sol for Leona into another blocker, the damage output just wasn't there. Now that MartinKartin has gotten the win off of that deck, though, maybe we can get some sort of reverse sweep happening, but I for sure, I kind of underestimated that deck originally, but because of the specific mechanics of the Watcher v Targon, I thought that would draw a ban, but the Zoe is perhaps a bit more of a scary component.
Yeah, no, it's definitely fair. I mean, that deck can do a lot. We just saw it really handle so many different threats. And even when you're kind of going through that matchup and you're thinking, all right, well, he has Leona for stuns and things, like you said, developing the Watcher on defense. And he waited. He was so patient throughout that entire time, MartinKartin was, and just waited until that exact moment where he goes, all right, I know nothing really can go wrong at this point. Let me just establish this. I was living fine the whole time. Let me go with that. So he wins with that deck, taking the 1-0 lead. If you're just joining,